It can feel like type 1 diabetes very quickly takes over every element of your life and feels like it's actually ruining your life. But in this video, we're going to cover the key areas so that you can control your type 1 diabetes rather than it controlling you. I'm Abby, I'm a personal trainer and nutritionist, and I'm a type 1 diabetic. I have been type 1 since I was 16 years old in 2011. I had a very traumatic diagnosis, and now I have gone on to make type 1 diabetes a massive part of my life beyond actually having it myself. I coach other type 1 diabetics to completely get in control of their type 1, their blood sugar, their health, their fitness, their food, every area of their well-being, so that they can absolutely thrive with their type 1. I make type 1 work around me, and I know how to keep myself in range around pretty much every situation. It no longer controls my life. It no longer ruins my life. In fact, in a lot of ways, I'm grateful for my type 1. So let's dive into these key areas to allow you to completely get in the driver's seat of your type 1 and flourish. The first area that we're going to look at is your entire endocrine or your hormonal system. Your hormones tend to have a domino effect on each other, and of course your insulin is a hormone. So we need to understand how insulin interacts with all the other hormones, primarily a few key hormones that we need to think about. For us in our menstrual years, that is the fluctuating hormones throughout our monthly cycle. And then for all of us, that's our circadian rhythm, our sleep and wake cycle. And then another really important one is cortisol and adrenaline and our stress hormones. We need to think about how those different situations, different hormones interact with our insulin, and how that can then affect our blood sugar, our management needs, how we need to manipulate insulin, carbohydrates, and timing in order to keep ourselves in range. So we can need to really adjust how we're managing our type 1 diabetes dependent on what time of day it is, if we got enough sleep, if we're feeling really stressed, which of the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle we're in, if we're going through perimenopause or we're postmenopause, and what that means for hormone balance on a daily, weekly and monthly basis, and then any other major events in our day-to-day life or life in general if it's ongoing that cause us some sort of hormonal response, whether that's positive or negative. We need to think about what's going on in our system function, what's going on with our hormones, which ones are being released and why, and then what effect that has on our type 1 diabetes, our blood sugar and our insulin needs. So for example, if you're in the late luteal phase of your menstrual cycle, which is roughly the week before your period, during this phase, your female hormones are gradually decreasing. You can feel really low energy, you can feel really antisocial, you can feel like you just don't want to engage much in the world, you feel hungrier, your workouts just don't feel as good, and you can really see that you've got a lot of insulin resistance during this phase. So how do you need to manage that? What does that mean for timing of insulin as well as dosing of insulin? How might you need to change your nutritional intake to not only support your female hormones, but also give you an easier time in managing your blood sugar? For example, do you need more fibre? Do you need to up the protein and the healthy fats? Do you need to potentially reduce fast release carbs such as white rice unless it's around your workout? So really concentrating on what hormonal response you're dealing with on any given day, on any given hour, is going to completely change how you understand your blood sugar management, predict how your blood sugar could react in the next 24 hours, in the next 2 hours, and that allows you to make really informed decisions about your type 1 diabetes management. The second key area is your muscle mass, your healthy skeletal muscle. Your muscle is where most of your glucose is stored as glycogen. Glycogen is your stored form of glucose, and about 80% of it is in your skeletal muscle. The rest of it is in your liver. The more healthy skeletal muscle you have, the more storage space you have for your glucose, and the more you then challenge that muscle via the right resistance training workouts, the more you deplete that glycogen, and then the more insulin sensitivity you have when your body has to restore those glycogen stores. So building muscle gives you more storage space, which means you're probably more insulin sensitive, and then challenging that muscle, which depletes the glycogen stores, will make you again more insulin sensitive because your body body wants to refill those storage spaces of glucose. So muscle mass is one of the most fundamental parts, I feel, of managing your type 1 diabetes. If you're not resistance training on a weekly basis, you're missing out on what I feel is the most powerful way to manage your type 1 diabetes. You don't need to be a really serious lifter or gym goer in order to do this. Home workouts with even just your body weight is absolutely life-changing. That's why I do what I do. That's why I coach people in their fitness primarily as type 1 diabetics, because when we improve our fitness and when we gain healthy muscle, our type 1 diabetes management can just be completely changed. We can go from almost no time in range to huge amounts of time in range, seeing loads of green on your graphs on your phone. When you look at your blood sugar time in range, you can go from so much red and orange, with just that little bit of green in the middle, to loads of green in the middle. And you can have so much more energy, so much more freedom in your life. You get the fitness results that you want. It's almost impossible to lose fat, gain muscle, feel good, perform well if our blood sugar is out of range too much. We want to go for that at least 70% time in range, but for myself and my clients, we aim for 80% plus. If you'd told 17-year-old me that I would achieve 80% plus time in range just across the board, I would not have believed you. So if you're in that place of, I can't do that, yes, you can. I actually went from almost no time in range to now maintaining at least 85% plus time in range around the clock. Except for when I'm really, really ill, but that's only every now and then. I went from absolutely feeling at rock bottom and actually not wanting to live for around 8 years of my life post-diagnosis, because no matter how much effort I put in, how hard I tried, I just could not manage my type 1 diabetes. If you're not already focusing on building muscle and challenging that muscle in continuous workouts, I really, really encourage you to consider it. And then the third tip that we're going to talk about is sort of all-round health. So that includes your gut health, your microbiome, again, your hormone balance, your sleep quality, as well as total sleep time, your stress levels and how you manage those, of course, your nutritional intake. For us type 1 diabetics, we can have a harder time absorbing nutrients. So we need to make sure that we're really focusing on getting in the right foods. For example, we tend to be quite low in magnesium, and magnesium can be really important for not only your insulin sensitivity, but also your sleep quality. And of course, if one part of our health is unbalanced or not in a good place, for example, your gut bacteria, that can have a huge knock-on effect with the rest of your health. If our gut's unhappy, potentially we feel unhappy emotionally, and then that can make it harder to control your blood sugar because you're just not in a good headspace to deal with it. And then maybe that means that you don't eat so well because you're just so fed up, you're so fatigued, you're so low on energy, you feel so beaten down by your type 1 that everything just kind of falls off track. So making sure we're looking after every single area of our well-being is so important for our type 1 management. They all go really hand in hand. And this is what we really focus on inside Thrive, my coaching program for type 1 diabetic women. We focus on nutrition, on training, on type 1 management, of course. We focus on gut health, hormone balance. Is your menstrual cycle in a healthy place? Are you dealing with loads of PMS? Then we'll look at how your nutrition can really aid improving your PMS, maybe reducing it so much that you then don't have such big glucose spikes the week before your period. Everything really interacts with each other. So we look at the broad picture, we look at you as a total person and how we can improve every single main area of your health, because ultimately that ties into your type 1 diabetes health. That is just a little summary of what I feel are the main areas of really looking after your type 1 diabetes and how you can feel so much better overall. Please let me know if you have any questions. There's links in the description if you'd like to get in touch. Maybe you'd like to work together. That would be amazing. Please stick around if you'd like more type 1 diabetes content. If you'd like a specific topic covered, please let me know and stick around, subscribe for more.